Milford, I never learned to like beer.
He doesn't.
Not
I don't
really.
either. I don't blame you. I don't like it either.
I learned to drink it because I felt it was required. I drank it enough of it to where I could stomach drinking it without making a
Yeah.
face. And then I said, okay, I've done that. But why you want to drink it, I don't know. But you know, there are some things that I didn't like when I was young that I like just fine now too. Your taste changes, you know. Cheese is one of them. I could not stand cheese when I was young. And I still don't like it too much if it's yellow, but white cheese I like. So anyway, our tastes change. What else do you need in life besides cheese anyhow, right? I mean, that's milk, isn't it? And isn't cheese basically milk? But people have done stuff to it, but I think it's milk. Let's think about your one need. Or how about one word? What else could we have? One sound. I'm just listing things here. What would not what else would be nice to be only one? Uh, one desire. I'm just emphasizing the word one now. I've got a nice example for one word. We have this little kitty that's wandered into our house, and we also have a resident cat as well. And they speak differently. They don't speak the same language. The resident cat, when it makes sound, it's like something like this. It's not meow, which is your standard cat word. But the new one uses well, no, it's closer to the standard cat word, but it's more like a meow. I'll just go ahead and put meow. And so it just uses that word for everything. You know, if it wants food, it's meow. If it wants water, it's meow. If it wants to go outside, it's meow. You know, easy vocabulary to master. And what's interesting is that she's got these great big round yellow eyes, and she looks right up at you and says, meow, fill my need. And she uses one word to say that. And of course you want to fill her need. It's just so, now the other cat doesn't do that at all. It's very different, you know. But that one word, meow. Now, what's our most important? Oh, oh yes. On the one word, I was going to give another example. This one word that the Holy Spirit never uses. You know, in our mind, as the Holy Spirit speaks to us. It just occurred to me, I was sitting here, I think there's one word that he never uses. Actually, you probably think of gobs of them. He probably doesn't say meow either. But the one that I thought of, no. Mm-hmm. Even if no is quite appropriate in a logical sense. I don't think he uses the word no. I think he would say, try this. Or let's go over here instead. He doesn't say no. You know, even animals don't like no. I'm sure that if you're an animal lover, you've noticed that. And you tell a cat no, it's not happy. You know, doesn't like that. I guess dogs are that way too. At any rate, well, we don't love the word no ourselves. You know, would you like to do this? Da da da. No. Well, I don't think the Holy Spirit says no. I think it's more like, let's just do it this way. And the Course teaches us that in terms of our needs, I kind of want to put some attention on that word this morning, that we don't really know what we need, but the Holy Spirit does. So if you ask the Holy Spirit to satisfy what you think is your need, he'll satisfy it in the way that he knows it needs to be satisfied. And because he knows that you don't really know what you need anyway. In fact, the course says that that there's really only one need. And I'll just read the quote from that, and that's a sense of separation from God. It is the only lack or need you really need to correct. And so when you look at a situation and you conclude, well, I need this, for this situation, there's always a little bit of a thought in there behind that saying, I wonder why God hadn't already satisfied this for me, or the Holy Spirit. See, there's always that sense of lack, a little bit of sense of lack, well, there may be, maybe I shouldn't say always. You decide that, but just be aware of it. And the next time you feel you need something, is there the thought, well, doesn't God know I need this? Doesn't the Holy Spirit know I'm supposed to have that? You see, that's a separation from God. That's a sense of separation from God. So this is saying that is that sense of separation from God at any level that you need to correct, and that's the only one you really need to correct. So we've been told by the course, and it's also been emphasized a lot in this other book that I've brought up on here occasionally called Many Wonderful Things, which it says that it gives you the teachings of the Course of Miracles in a simplified form. Is kind of what it does. And the emphasis there is this: have you this morning already taken the Holy Spirit as your partner in anything and everything you're going to do and say and think today? And if not, well, why not? Let's just start now. Why not just do that as soon as you think of it, you see? And that is the way to awaken in this lifetime, to do that consistently. Uh, Now, if you go around seeing yourself as needy, needs, the Holy Spirit is going to tell you that no, you're not needy. You may have needs. In this life, the body has needs at any rate, but you're not needy. The difference is this: I have needs, they are satisfied, I am not needy. Or I have needs, they are not satisfied, and I am needy. You see, so you're not needy unless you choose to be, because the Holy Spirit can satisfy any of your needs. So I would like you to think about what you think you need. Well, I've already answered it for you. Your only need is that you need to correct your sense of separation from God. So make sure you get that one. Get that one. Get your one need. You'll think you have others almost for sure. But at least get the one that the Course says is your only one. Oh, yeah, the one need. No sense of separation from God, because the ego will bring to you ideas of separation from God in all kinds of different ways. But one of the ways is simply the belief that you're needy, that you're needy. You can't have everything you need. Now, I'm not saying that if you make a big list of all the things you think you need and mail it to the Holy Spirit, that you're going to get back all those things. I'm not saying that at all, because the Holy Spirit knows you have needs, but he also knows you don't know what they are for the most part. And you certainly don't know how to answer them, but he does. If you happen to luck out and actually know your sense of need as being the same as his, that's fine too. But in general, what we think of as the answer to our need is not the same as the Holy Spirit. And what he's going to do, he will give you everything that does not block your way to the light. And what else could you want to happen anyhow? You see, when I think of a need. Oh, I'm hungry. I want a piece of candy. When I'm thirsty, I want a bottle of beer, whatever, or just a big bottle of water. I don't know. Or maybe it's got to be not water, but purified water from Australian springs. I don't know. Whatever you think. Well, the Holy Spirit knows how to satisfy those needs. And the Course actually says that He will satisfy even your foolish needs. He uses that word. You say, well, that's kind of a bad sounding word. Does the Holy Spirit call us foolish? No, He doesn't call anybody names. He's just saying that it's the need that's foolish, not you. And by foolish, it just means there's some idea of specialness in there or some idea of separation. That's all. But even so, uh, He does say that He'll take care of them. He says only the Holy Spirit recognizes foolish needs as well as real ones, and He will teach you how to meet both without losing either. In other words, he doesn't say no to our foolish needs. Remember, foolish is not an insulting word. Normally, it is an insulting word, by the way. Yes, we use in our language, but he's not. That's not the intention here. It's just to remind you that it's not a real problem for you. It's not what you really need. But we think we need specialists a lot, and so he's just saying, well, that's actually a foolish need because it can't satisfy you. But He will satisfy you, satisfy the needs, uh, any need that you give Him. But He has His own way of doing it, and He will do it in a way that does not block your awareness of the light or your progress towards the light. So He's not going to reinforce any specialness that is hidden there in your need. Suppose you really have, in your opinion, the strong need to connect with this other person. And this other person is really not very interested in you. What's the phrase they use on the television? Not into. He's not into you. Remember that kind of phrase? Isn't that a phrase? I've heard it. Or she's not into you. That means don't ask her for her date again. She doesn't want to go with you, or he does, or whatever. So you may start thinking that, well, I need a certain response from that other person. And the Holy Spirit is not going to say, no, you don't need it, but He's not going to say no. He'll say, well, here's some other responses that will be just fine for you. In fact, they're the ones you really need to have. In other words, the idea is to take the Holy Spirit as your partner in everything, even simplistic things. So the standard idea is that, well, I ask for divine help only when I'm in the foxhole and the shells are bursting all over me. Then anybody is going to say, oh, please help me, because you're afraid you're going to be blown away. That's not how to do it. You don't have to go find a foxhole. And that's not the point anyway. In little things, big things, but big things as well, but especially little things, because we have little things coming up to our attention all the time. We rarely have a bomb exploding above us or big disaster. Every once in a while, then that can occur too. But in the little things, why not? You have something, you have a being, let's call it the Holy Spirit, a being of some sort that God has created for you, for me, to help us return. And that help is free. It really matters, is the point. The problem with the Course in Miracles that most people probably just don't even get it, that it matters at all, is it's subtle. In terms of having effects. It's not necessarily subtle in the words it says. It can be pretty strong there, But in terms of the effects and of your application of it, you have to apply the Course in Miracles or it's useless. If you're not applying it, just go read some other book of poetry. I mean, or read what, it doesn't make any difference. sentence in my or phrase or paragraph that you can find a way of application for those thoughts, you need to do so because it's in your benefit. And so when you start thinking of yourself as what you need, the, God knows with it we have needs in this body. The Holy Spirit understands that. It is the act of satisfying those needs where the help is so important. And what we need to understand is we are not needy. You are never ever needy. You do not want to think that way ever, because that's a sense of separation. If you're needy, you're separate from God, or otherwise He'd have satisfied it for you, and you don't want to think that way. But it's understandable that when you're walking around with a body that can be harmed in about 1 trillion different ways and has all these conditions that you have to satisfy to keep it going, well, you understand that it has needs, and you're going to identify with the body off and on, or perhaps all the time. I don't know, but you are not needy ever. So, well, I really want this other thing over here. Well, that's fine. That doesn't mean you need it. Doesn't even mean that it'll be good for you. I think the Course in Miracles wants us to learn that we're really ignorant here. We don't know anything. But we think we do, and we like to proclaim that we do because it makes us feel big and important. But we don't know anything. That's not a problem because the one who has the answers is available. You just have to access it. And it's a subtle thing because the Holy Spirit doesn't take form. If He took form and wore a big pink suit and walked right behind you, and was always tugging at your shoulder, your sleeve or something here, say you got to do it the way I say here. Well, actually, we wouldn't like that at all. I don't think we'd be trying to get rid of Him. But we might come to understand that His answers are really good answers. If you just give Him a chance, He has good answers. Why? They work, and they do not block your way to the light. You just can't get any better than that. To have an answer, I'm going to provide you with an answer. It will take care of your need, and it will not block your way to the light in any way. That's a high quality answer there. You know, it's not one that says, well, it's an answer, but you'll probably stumble over and hit your fall in the mud down the road. And no, it's not that way. Get the best answer. And so just be open to it. And the main thing to remember is that you don't know anything. If you feel, well, I know lots of stuff, then I must have the answers. You know, I know stuff. What kind of stuff? Answers, all kinds of answers. Now you may have worked hard to get those answers, you know, figured out this, that, or the other. Just put them aside and say, I want the Holy Spirit's answer. Let me just recount a little story that happened to me last night. The ego is always anxious to come in and trip you up. It just delights in doing that. Well, in our house, we have animals, bunch of animals. I'm not talking about Mary and I'm talking about the other. I'm talking about the other animals, the smaller. I'm talking about the small ones that have hair all over. And there are some monkeys and there are some cats. So I went into the kitchen and the lights were turned out because I wanted to heat up something. And and there's some monkeys in some cages there in the kitchen and they're asleep. So if I flip the overall light on, I'll wake them up, you know. So our solution to this is to have a little flashlight about that big. Yeah, just about. It's kind of miniature flashlight. We just stick them every place, you know. And so I went up to get the flashlight. It's actually right on top of the microwave. Well, it wasn't there. And Mary was sitting there and I said, the flashlight's not here. She says, I didn't move it. Now the ego had a translation of this. The translation is, you moved it. She didn't say that, but that was universally recognized. You all laughed, so you recognize the translation. That's the ego's translation, by the way. See, so it will be there universally for you that are in some similar kind of situation. And we'll say she's saying that you lost it. And so what is my response in my mind is, well, I am quite forgetful. So I could indeed. In fact, if I moved it, I lost it. That's all it takes. If I move it from there and take it someplace else, it's gone. Because I will not remember where I put it. Well, I probably did. Certainly possible. I didn't say anything. And so I've got to turn the overhead light on now. So I flipped the overhead light on. And you know what she said? You woke all the animals. Damned if you did. And if you know, either way here, you're going down, you're falling down a stairwell here. And so I knew that was true. I couldn't disagree with it. The light does tend to wake animals, it wakes me up too. So so I went to bed and I laid down and I realized something. Do you all know what I realized? I wasn't at peace. Anytime I lay down to relax, to go to sleep, I become much more sensitive to whether I'm at peace or not. I might not notice it walking to the bed, but as soon as I lay down in the bed and try to let go of all little thoughts that want to be there, I realize, oh, there's something there. And I said, well, there's something there. So I said, well, the simplest way to take care of this, if you have a person like Mary, and I know that she's a safe person for me to address in this way. It's not true of everybody. But I knew I could go to Mary and get this cleaned up in a time, a second or so. I didn't know how it would be cleaned up, but that's what I felt the Holy Spirit was saying to me. Just go check it. Just go check out the situation. Don't just lay here and stew, because I would like to go to sleep. And so I went in there and I said, I thought back over my day and I thought, I didn't really have a need for that light today. Sometimes I have a need for it to go look in some other place, I said, Mary, I don't believe that I had a need for that flashlight today. I don't think I moved it today. She says, oh, well, that means the cat knocked it off. Now, why couldn't she have just said that earlier? Well, then I wouldn't have learned my lesson. That's why relationships are important. If she had said right up, when instead of saying, "Oh, I didn't knock it off," I guess the cat must have knocked it off, because you never do that. Well, she can't say I never do that, because I frequently do that, actually. So she said the cat must have knocked it off. Well, okay. Well, how likely is that? I mean, isn't it more likely that she did it and doesn't remember, or I did it and I don't remember? Well, I go over there by the microwave, look to the side, and sure enough, there it was. It had been knocked off. Hit it on the head, like that. Well, I'm at peace now. No problem. She wasn't telling me that I did it. She was just simply saying, well, I didn't do it. We didn't, and we didn't pursue it. Once we pursue it, we see exactly what happened. It's over in I think we had a little vase there with some little bushes. It was laying there in the bushes, right there. So I went back in and went to bed and went to sleep peacefully. So in a case like that, I can say, I know Mary is a safe person to go through. She's not going to say, when I say, I don't think I did that, she's not going to say, well, I sure as hell didn't do it. She's not going to go there. If the person is the kind of person that's going to go there, you don't need to say that to them. It's just no point. You just got to deal with it yourself. And what do? You ask Holy Spirit for help. Help me to see this situation like you see it, because I'm seeing it now like the ego sees it. Now, once the ego gets in, it's like almost like you've got an armor against the ego, and most of the time it can't get in. But every once in a while, there's a little opening, and boy, it shoves its hand in there. Found a little opening, and just grabs your brain and fills your brain with a thought or two from its library of thoughts. And I suggest strongly that you attend to that as soon as you become aware of it. You may have to wait till you go to bed to realize there's a problem. That was a fairly subtle problem. She didn't actually call me a name or nothing. You so and so and so and so. Why do you do that? Well, the Mary wouldn't do that. But uh, yeah.
Did she make a face?
Oh, really? That's a good question.
You said earlier you made a face about beer, when you, in this instance here, I just wondered, because a face says so much.
Yeah, no, she didn't do body language. Her body language is that she was looking at her little iPad,
Yeah.
and her body language was, I'm reading my iPad. But not that I was intruding all that much. So there was no body language. No. In other words, the ego didn't require body language to get that thought into my mind. It was running fine, just with the phrase when she said, "Well, I didn't move it," and then she went back to looking at her iPad. But no, in many cases, word is not, body language is all that's necessary in many situations. Somebody can just roll their eyes like you idiot, and it's equivalent to calling you an idiot.
Words are needed.
No words needed.
When I think about my dad's face sometimes, and growing up as a little kid, he was this real serious army officer.
Yeah, right.
Or my mom's face, either one, especially my dad.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say anything.
You didn't have to say
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. Where he stood.
Well, we all experienced this, and we know how important the body language is. Somebody said that a very large percentage of our communication is actually nonverbal anyhow. I mean, it's over 50%. I don't remember the amount.
I heard 98%.
Well, that's a little high, but you never, maybe
That's
so.
what I heard.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember this decades and decades later, but I remember in undergraduate school in the late 70s, we were in one of the classes, we were given slides to look at, and what was our impression of them? It was in a social science class, social science / physical science. And the photo was of a young girl, probably 8 or 9, sitting at a piano bench, ready to play the piano. And beside her was a baseball glove and a ball in it, and she had a cap on it, her head, and she had a t-shirt and shorts. And there was a concerning look on her face. So the majority and the initial reaction was people would see that and think, she doesn't want to do her piano lessons. And so we tend to interpret things as we are trained subtly and in big ways over time. But the point was, no, she was, I can't remember, but the point was we were wrong. She enjoyed practicing her piano lessons, and she had maybe was tired at that moment, was ready to put her baseball game and practice on the side for that and do this. But we register even these most obvious things that we think, this is what I'm seeing,
Yeah. The nonverbal part.
Yeah, that was all we were given, that verbal photo, that image, and we were wrong. She enjoyed playing the piano, even though all the signals said contrary.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a series on TV, I think Tulu, one of those streaming ones, and the name of it is Lie to Me. And that's all they do is read faces when they ask questions or who's doing what. So it's very interesting. If anybody's curious about, learning that, I never thought about it.
Well, the thing that I was thankful for is that I knew I could get rid of it. See, I got rid of this in 30 seconds. But if I had just laid there and struggled with it, it would have taken me an hour probably. I don't know why that is. You'd think I could do it faster. Well, who knows how long, but it wouldn't have been that quick.
But you opened up to see.
Yeah, I mean, just asking the other person is just an immediate solution. See, boom, taken care And otherwise I've got to work with it, get that and replace that. It's a judgment, the thought of judgment that I know what it means. I'm forgetting that I'm ignorant. In my mind, there's the thought, oh, I know what that means. And the ego comes up with a false interpretation that wasn't what was meant at all, you see. So the Holy Spirit is always available, and it's extremely important that you give him permission to be with you in your mind and bring answers to you. If you don't give him permission, he can't do that. That's why we have to ask or invite. And that's because the reason we came here was to get away from God's control, if you want to think of it as control. If you want to think of love as control, to get away from God's love, to be on our own. And God and the Holy Spirit respect that. So they're not coming into your mind unless you say, yes, it's okay, come in. You just have to do that. Don't let a day go by when you don't do that. That's why the Course says you need to live your whole life through miracles. When you ask for a miracle, that's asking for the Holy Spirit's help, of course. You need to ask for a miracle every single day and live your whole life through miracles. Miracles means help from God, simply said. And you don't want to ever be without. This is a dangerous place in a certain sense. That's why the separation is not overcome immediately, just like that, by all of us. I mean, there's probably not too many people in the world. Well, I don't really know, but there's a lot of people in the world that would jump at the chance to end the separation. If there was a little booth they could walk to and they said, would you like to join with God now? If so, enter here. And a lot of them went in here, but a whole lot of those would run back out because they would say, God's not the way I thought he was. I'm not ready. Don't want it. But that's not available. You have to give permission and request. You need to do it every day. And it doesn't cost you a thing. And you say, well, that won't have any results in my life. Yes, it will. It will. It's a matter of fact. You really do have help. And the ego is going to say, no, you don't. That's just a fiction. That's bull. If I can't see it, it's not there. The reply to that is, well, ego, I don't see you either. No, but don't actually, I say that facetiously. It's best not to reply to the ego, not to argue with him. Just ignore and shift your attention elsewhere. That's what puts the ego, that's the way to put it aside. You cannot fight the ego. That's a losing battle. Every blow that you strike, it comes out stronger. You're playing its game. You just simply take if your attention has got a pointer and it's pointed toward the ego, you just take your attention and move it over here. Now, in this case, when I went to bed, it had got in fairly strongly, although it wasn't a big issue. So, even if I had forgotten where I put the little flashlight, well, I do that routinely. So I will continue to do that. It's not a problem at all. Even though I had to turn the light on in order to see how to run the microwave, well, that's just a fact of life. I got to have some light. But the point is it's the energy. The ego energy is negative and judgmental and says you're not good enough. The particular situation doesn't matter, not important. That's just what it says. It is one teaching. It seems to me it has really a lot of teachings, but the one that I really want to emphasize here is that it tells you you are not good enough. You did not do that well enough. You should have done it better. That's all from the ego's playbook, and it's all meaningless. But if you let his energy get into your mind, you have to deal with it. If you don't let it in, you just cast it aside. So pay attention to how you feel. One of the 3 lessons of the Holy Spirit, early on in the course, it says the Holy Spirit has 3 lessons, and one of them is to be vigilant for God's kingdom and nothing else. And Jesus says you're too tolerant of your mind wandering here, there, and yonder, which we all are. And if it's wandering, the ego is pulling your cart. That's the way it wanders. And so you just always want to say, anytime you're upset, Holy Spirit, help me see this like you do. That's all this needs. This works. And it will, this is a book in mind training. The course is. It will teach you how to think in ways that keep you from stumbling over yourself and falling into the mud. It will keep you from doing that. Or if you do that, it'll show you how to get out of it as quickly and simply as possible. You have a helper. Use him in all things. And many wonderful things. Says it so clearly. They kept asking this young woman who had this information, can we wake up in this lifetime? And she said, I've told you, all you have to do is take the Holy Spirit as your partner in all things, not in 90%. Not in 99%. You just say, look, it's a total deal here. We're partners. You know, it's like if you're married and you say that's a full partnership. You don't say, this is a full partnership, except one day a month, I really need to go see this other woman. No, that's not good enough. and the wife would let you know real quickly. Or if it were the other way around, the husband would let you know real quickly, no, that's not it. It's a full partnership with the Holy Spirit. And when you do that, you will not be needy. And don't ever see yourself as needy, because it's just not true. And that's just the ego waving that flag, trying to get your attention. You are not needy. That doesn't mean that while we're here, we don't have needs. The body is very frail after all. I mean, it's got to have air. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed at how frail the body is. It couldn't exist at all in the whole cosmos if there wasn't one globe and a little tiny thin layer of air around that globe. And if you weren't in that little tiny ring of atmosphere, you could not even live unless you had special equipment, I suppose. Amazing. But here we are. We just take it for granted and breathe in air and receive water and food, hopefully. Although that is in question sometimes, as we know, in part of our country over the week that Texas had no water and very little food, and in particular, no energy. So this world is not the easy lesson place. It presents great challenges. But what the Course wants to say is the size of the challenge has no effect on the type of answer or whether you'll get an answer. We get lost in the size of the challenge. If it's a huge challenge, we think, oh, how can I possibly manage that? And the Holy Spirit says, they're all the same. Just ask me. I'll take care of it. I will take care of it. And the reason it's really important to ask about little things day in and day out is so that when the big thing comes, your faith will still be there, you see, and you'll know that the answer can be received there just as well as otherwise. Do you remember the story about I don't know which book it was in, or I forgot, some writing about the Course in Miracles, about a man who just felt that the Course in Miracles didn't make sense. He says, you can ask for a miracle and it will be granted. He says, that's silly. I'll prove it's silly, right? They were in a diner, in one of these little diners. It looks like an old bus or something. And he says, I'm just going to ask for a cow right now. Sitting there as they were eating. He said, you see a cow? And his friend said, no. There you go. It doesn't work. And so the waitress came up and said, do you need anything? Well, I need some milk for my coffee. She put a carton of milk on there and a picture of a cow or something. Well, it wasn't exactly the three-dimensional cow that maybe he had in mind, but it was a picture of a cow. miracles work. But you have to get your insistence that they don't work out of the way, or you will not see them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Bob.